Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at 11.
While many people are focused on Ebola, Central Kentucky doctors say you should actually be more concerned about the flu.
Clouds hanging on across parts of central and especially eastern Kentucky. Straight ahead, I'll show you why that is the big determining factor on who gets the frost.
A race against the clock as drivers hurry and try to fill up their tanks before the price of gas goes up.
WKYT News at 11 starts now.
Good evening to you. You have heard a lot about Ebola in recent weeks, but doctors in central Kentucky say there's another virus you should be more worried about.
They want to make sure you don't forget about the flu. Health leaders say they've now confirmed 3 flu cases in the state of Kentucky, one of them in Woodford County. WKYT's Jordan Valines has the alert from doctors in our top story at 11.
According to healthcare professionals, this illness is one that hospitalizes hundreds of thousands and kills tens of thousands of people every year. But this illness probably isn't the one you've seen splashed across headlines recently. This illness is seasonal influenza, also called the flu.
Your neighbor's going to have it, your coworkers are going to have it. Your neighbors and coworkers are not going to have Ebola.
Dr. Brian Smith says the seriousness of Ebola shouldn't be overlooked, but the chances of widespread contamination in the U.S. are extremely unlikely.
It's rare, but it's rare. It's 3 people in 350 million people in the United States, so I don't think we really need to worry about it.
But the likelihood of you being exposed to the flu
It's still very contagious.
Is
Everybody can get the flu.
Much higher.
Looking at the Farmer's Almanac, and it's supposed to be a bad winter, so it should be a bad flu season.
Since the risk of getting the flu is far more common in the U.S., Dr. Smith wants to stress the importance of washing your hands, covering your mouth when coughing, and certainly getting a flu vaccine. Just a few simple steps to help prevent you and your family from getting sick this flu season. Jordan Valines, WKYT.
And health leaders say the other 2 flu cases are out of Louisville. They also say that if you get a flu shot at your doctor's office, your health insurance will typically cover the cost.
You are going to want to protect those outdoor plants before you go to bed tonight. Much of the bluegrass could see frost tomorrow morning. Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey has an early look now at your forecast. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Amber. It is a fine and a frosty line that we are walking across, especially central Kentucky right now, with a little bit of clearing skies versus some cloud cover. The frost advisory continues for the counties that are shaded in blue. That includes the Lexington metro points north and west. Notice how eastern Kentucky, we are not included in that. Let me show you why. Here is Defender, and we've put the satellite on here. And check out our timeline here. It takes it right on through where we are now, starting you out a little earlier this evening at 6 o'clock. Look at the back edge of the clouds into central Kentucky. Notice in the past 5 hours, we haven't been seeing very much movement at all between the clear skies and the cloudy skies. If anything, that cloud line has been increasing a little bit to the west. It's simple overnight. If you have clear skies for the better part of the night, you're going to wake up to frost. If you have mostly cloudy skies, chances are you're going to wake up to just chilly temperatures without any frost at all. You need those clear skies. Something else I'm watching first thing tomorrow morning, the potential for a little bit of fog that will be slow to burn away as we go through the day. So your forecast on your Thursday, out the door in the morning, cold start, patchy frost, especially central Kentucky. We head into the afternoon, temperatures recover into the upper 50s. We'll come back and talk about that frost threat in greater detail and look ahead toward the all-important weekend forecast, guys, in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. Now to a developing story we're tracking out of Washington, D.C. tonight. Another man has jumped the fence at the White House. Fox News cameras capture the man trying to fight off Secret Service dogs on the north lawn. The Secret Service says the 23-year-old from Maryland was arrested shortly after jumping the fence. It comes about a month after an Army veteran jumped the fence and made it inside the White House before being stopped. The Secret Service added new fences and posted additional agents after that incident. Tonight, Canada's Prime Minister called the attack on the country's Parliament building an act of terrorism.
A gunman killed a Canadian soldier before police shot him, and we're now learning more about that gunman's past. Chris Van Cleve has the latest from Ottawa, the capital of Canada.
Gunfire echoed through Canada's Parliament building Wednesday morning as guards chased a gunman through Ottawa's halls of power. Politicians barricaded themselves inside meeting rooms.
I was just taking off my jacket to go into caucus. I hear this pop, pop, pop.
The assault began just before 10 a.m. across the street at Canada's National War Memorial. Police confirmed the suspect drove up and shot the soldier standing guard at point-blank range.
There is a shooter on the loose. Please move back.
This amateur video is believed to show the man leaving the scene and getting back into his car. The guard, 24-year-old Nathan Cirillo, was taken to a hospital but soon died of his injuries. The area around Parliament was locked down. The gunman, wearing a scarf over his face, was finally shot and killed. He's identified as Michael Abdul Zihaf Bibo, a 32-year-old Canadian citizen and recent convert to Islam. The attack came a day after Canada raised its national terror threat level to medium after another incident where a Canadian soldier was killed. Police linked Monday's hit and run in Quebec to a terrorist act by a suspected jihadist.
This week's events are a grim reminder that Canada is not immune to the types of terrorist attacks we have seen elsewhere around the world.
So far, there's no word on any motive for Wednesday's attack or whether the suspect had any ties to known terror groups. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Ottawa.
President Obama called the Canadian Prime Minister to express his condolences. The president also said the attack is a reminder to stay vigilant.
Police released some new disturbing details today about the murder of a Pulaski County woman. Investigators found Monica Wells' body last week in a sinkhole. Police now say her boyfriend, Johnny Hendricks, beat her to death. He's been charged with murder. During a hearing for Hendricks today, investigators testified that Wells' 8-year-old son witnessed Hendricks beating her at their home, and they say they found blood all over the living room. Investigators say Hendricks put the body in a sinkhole, hoping to hide what happened.
He thought she'd go in that water and they'd never find her. That's why he took her driver's license, her medical card, her Social Security card.
Investigators also testified that Hendricks killed Wells after finding her with another man. Hendricks' attorney argued his client acted under extreme emotional disturbance, so he asked the judge to lessen the charge to manslaughter, but the judge kept the murder charge and sent the case on to a grand jury.
A Morgan County reverend decided to fight back when someone broke into his home. Jason James says he heard a man trying to break open a door yesterday afternoon. He didn't recognize the man, so he called 911. About that time, James says the burglar made it a couple of steps inside the home. So James said he grabbed his gun, and the burglar started running away.
50, 60 yards from the step, I fired way off in the opposite direction into the ground.
Says the burglar didn't steal anything, but police haven't found him. They say they're looking for a white man between 5'6" and 5'8" with tattoos on his arms. He had on an orange shirt during the burglary. Well, just this morning, most gas stations around the Bluegrass were selling a gallon of regular unleaded for less than $3. But today, the price jumped as much as 30 or 40 cents.
But before that jump, Berea had the cheapest gas in the state. So tonight, drivers there raced to fill up before the price went up. WKYT's Garrett Weimer has the story new at 11.
Gas at this Circle K station was $2.66 for much of the day, but it didn't take long for those low gas prices to go right back up.
We went and ate, and we figured on filling up when we come back through. You couldn't even get in here then when we went through, and now it's went up $3.16, less than an hour.
That line of cars then found the Shell station.
We've been here a long time. There were probably 10, 15 cars here when we pulled in.
Josh Barrett came here from Richmond to get his gas at $2.79. But the other cars in line won't be so lucky.
An employee at the Shell station here on Richmond Road in Berea told me they had to boost their prices back up to $3.16 after the Circle K right down the road boosted theirs.
A $3.16, luckily it's not $3.16 at the pump. Driving a Tahoe, yeah, $2.70, $2.60, that'd be awesome. I'd love for it to stay around there.
Counting it well worth the wait to fill up his SUV.
$50 for 17 gallons. That's great.
But for Millard Burns and the other drivers who were a little too late,
we should have stopped when we went through a while ago.
Back to feeling the drain on their wallets with every gallon.
That makes a lot of difference. It sure does. Especially when you ain't got no money, the way the economy is. I mean, it's hard to, 50 cents makes a lot of difference. A lot of difference.
In Berea, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
AAA says overall prices statewide are still lower than in recent weeks, and they could go back down from today's big increase. You can find the latest gas prices in your area. Just go to WKYT.com. Some signs have changed tonight in downtown Lexington. New signs have been installed around the Square Shopping Center. It used to be called Victorian Square. Some new restaurants and stores are moving into the square. Urban Outfitters opened last week, but the store is having a grand opening celebration tomorrow. Alumni Hall has also opened in the square.
Parents call it shocking what investigators say a school bus monitor did to a couple of students that now has her facing charges.
Also coming up here at 11, some encouraging news tonight about 2 Texas nurses who have been fighting the Ebola virus.
Tonight, a former school bus monitor has been charged with harassing and menacing 2 students on a bus.
Melinda Owens worked for Anderson County Schools, but last month investigators say she put her hand in the face of a 12-year-old and pushed his face into a bus seat. And they say she grabbed another 12-year-old's poster board and destroyed it. Parents say they haven't heard of anything like this happening before.
I'm just kind of shocked that, that would happen around here.
The Anderson County Superintendent says Owens resigned after the incident. She also said a camera on the bus captured what happened. Owens did not want to tell us her side of the story today.
Tonight, family members of a Texas nurse diagnosed with Ebola said she no longer has the virus. Amber Vincent's family said tests no longer detect Ebola in her body. She's being treated at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta. Her family says doctors have approved taking her out of isolation, but Emory leaders would not comment on the family's claim. The other nurse diagnosed with Ebola, Nina Pham, is listed in good condition at the National Institutes of Health in Maryland. Health leaders have quarantined her dog, but they say the first Ebola test on him came back negative.
Tonight, the University of North Carolina has fired some employees after an investigation into an academic fraud scandal. University leaders say they have either fired or disciplined 9 employees. A U.S. Justice Department investigation found more than 3,100 students, nearly half of them athletes, enrolled in classes they didn't have to show up for. The investigation also claims the students received artificially inflated grades for research papers.
A strange crash in Louisville today, injuring 2 emergency medical technicians. Police say an ambulance swerved to miss a school bus at an intersection, but the ambulance still clipped the bus and ended up on its side. Police say the 2 EMTs in the ambulance were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. No children were on the school bus, and police say the driver was not injured.
Some big changes have been planned for Lexington's Red Mile racetrack. As part of a partnership with Keeneland, the Red Mile will begin offering instant racing next year. The game is also known as historical race wagering. An instant racing parlor will be built at the Red Mile with about 1,000 terminals inside. Construction will begin soon. Red Mile leaders expect the project to be finished by next September. Revenues from instant racing games will be split between the Red Mile and Keeneland.
A record number of Kentucky voters have registered for next month's general election. The Secretary of State's office says more than 3.1 million people are now registered to vote. That beats the previous election record, which was set in May. State leaders say nearly 42,000 new voters have registered since then. They also say about 53% of Kentucky voters are registered as Democrats, 39% Republicans, and 8% identify as other.